Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 8 recap for the 2024 season. Now we are officially halfway through the season, so we can officially say how crazy it is that we are that far into it. And speaking of crazy, we got quite a few big trades to go through before jumping into our recap of the best games from the prior week. So rolling straight into those trades, starting with the earliest to the most recent. We are recording this on Tuesday, October 29th at 7. So anything that happens after that, we will not have right here, but everything that has happened today, we will have. Starting with the New England Patriots trading edge rusher Josh Uche to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then after that, we had the the Carolina Panthers trading wide receiver Deontay Johnson to the Baltimore Ravens. And then finally, most recently, just within the last half hour even, the Jacksonville Jaguars traded left tackle Cam Robinson to the Minnesota Vikings to replace Christian Darrisaw, who was announced to miss the whole season with, I believe, a torn ACL, but I do not remember for sure. And to stack on that Christian Darrisaw injury, another out for season injury is also Stephon Diggs, Houston Texans wide receiver, who will also miss the rest of the season. I think also with the torn ACL, if I'm not mistaken.
They were both torn ACLs.
So two huge injuries right there, and some new names and some new places. So should be a very interesting and changed landscape for the NFL in those Week 9 games. But we are not talking about Week 9 yet. That'll be tomorrow's episode. For now, we are talking about Week 8, starting with the Minnesota Vikings game. And the first time this year, we are talking about Thursday Night Football. We had the Minnesota Vikings head to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. And I should say the new and improved Rams, considering they had Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back for that game. And the Vikings fall on the road by a score of Minnesota 20, LA 30. Now, this, just like last week with the Vikings, I don't think the Vikings played terrible this game. There was definitely some questionable plays. There was some things that were like, come on, that's the Vikings of old. We've done better this year. Don't let that stuff get to us. But overall, we still looked really good. I mean, just like usual, we came out very hot and scored on both of our first two opening drives, 2 touchdowns. The first one being just an absolute dominant drive, and then the second one being the flip side of that, but still a kind of long, drawn out, just run the clock, run the ball type drive. But hey, when you can do it both ways and still have a touchdown at the end of the day, that's pretty nice. But just like we've done all year, we started out very hot and then just very much lost it throughout the game. We were only able to pick up 6 points in the second half, and the Rams played a complete consistent game, which I'll say it every day. Consistency beats flashy. I mean, the Vikings came out and looked really good at the start, but the Rams put up a touchdown in every single quarter of this game and ended with 9 total points in that final quarter due to a safety to end the game. And when you're doing that, you can't let that happen as the Vikings. I mean, it's just when you sit there and you watch that lead deteriorate on you, especially when when you didn't have that much of a lead to begin with, you're just not going to win the games that way. So I don't think that the Vikings played horrendous by any means. I think that the Rams just played very well. One thing I did want to talk about, just because I found it kind of interesting, the fact that Puka Nacua was released off IR at noon that day and then was able to dress and play for the 7 o'clock kickoff. I don't love that. I think that's a very questionable rule.
It was, because there was no reporting on it.
There was absolutely no reporting until it was released.
Not until that day that he got off IR.
I mean, I was working all day, so I wasn't really paying attention. But I didn't even know he was playing till pretty much kickoff. I looked at my phone and saw an alert from earlier that was like, oh, Puka Nacua released off IR and will dress. And I was like, wait, what? He's playing? So that was absolutely crazy, but did it really make a 10-point difference? Maybe. He didn't have a touchdown, but he did have 120 yards, and he was a huge part of the rushing game and the blocking game, more specifically, I guess I should say. So maybe Nacua makes a 10-point difference. Maybe he doesn't. Nonetheless, I just don't think that the Vikings really deserved this game, not because they played poorly, but because the Rams just played that well.
Yeah, and one player that also played well was Matthew Stafford. who had, I believe he had at least two touchdown passes. I saw one of them. That's when I first tuned in. Was the touchdown pass to tie it, where he emerged out of that group of men and just emerged from the pile and throws a dart to Cooper Kupp in the end zone.
He just like slightly ducks and everyone just like flies over
him.
It's
just went around him and he just snuck out from under him.
Guys, he's like 58, I think. Just take him down.
So that was a little interesting to tune into. And then that was to tie it at 14-14. And I saw an interesting stat that said that was the first game this season where both teams scored on their first two possessions. So that was really a fast start to a fast-paced game. It did kind of slow down there in the second half with just two touchdowns by each team. Not by each team, but two touchdowns each to the Rams. Once in the third quarter and one in the fourth quarter. And then that safety to end it. Was very questionable refereeing with the face mask to Sam Darnold, which was pretty obvious on national TV, but it seemed to be to the referee's backside. So should you be able to challenge that? Probably. But where do you draw the line at?
Do I think that the Vikings, with that face mask, drive down, score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, and win in overtime? No, I don't think that happens at all. With the way the offense was looking that second half, there's no way in hell that changed the actual win-loss column outcome of this game. But you still hate to see it when it was just so blatant that it happened. I mean, Sam Darnold rips back. The ref was right there. It was absolutely crazy. I don't get too mad because, like I said, there's like a 1% chance it changed the outcome of the game, but you just hate to see it.
It's funny because we touched on it last week, but we call that the game-losing play. But all throughout that game was game-losing plays for the Vikings.
Yeah.
The missed tackles, the not sacking Matthew Stafford there on 3rd and goal, to tie the game at 14 early on. You don't think it makes an impact there, but it makes an impact at the end of the game.
Yeah, this was the first game this season where I can confidently say the Vikings lost in the trenches, which of course made a huge difference. I mean, Darisaw, as we just kind of touched down, goes down with an injury that will make him miss the rest of the season. David Quessenberry did his best, but he was going against Jared Verse, a very young, strong rookie this year. And Jared Verse just kind of had his way with him in the second half.
Rookie of the Year candidate. So.
I mean, and even the Vikings defensive line was losing. They were going up against a battered Rams offensive line and just were getting zero pressure with any sort of consistency. So it really starts in the trenches, and you see it here with the final score. But nonetheless, a really good game. I think
Kyren Williams had a good game too.
Huge game for Kyren Williams. He might be one of the most underrated running backs in the league.
He's definitely proven to me that he's belonged.
That guy does not get as much love as he should. He practically was that offense while those receivers were out. So now moving on, we have the other NFC North team we always talk about with the Green Bay Packers, who are also on the road. We had the Green Bay Packers heading down to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars in a classic trap game, but they escaped the trap, or sorry, as Kirk Cousins say, enter your trap, take over your trap. They win by a score of 30-27 on the road.
Yeah, and it was really a close game in the end. The Packers had 10-point leads at two different times this game, at 10-0 and 27-17, and they let it go twice. So that was a little bit alarming for this Packers defense to not be able to hold this team. They broke a lot. They didn't bend. They suddenly broke when it happened. They did get a couple of turnovers, which were huge. A fumble late in the game and an early interception. And that fumble really is what helped give the Packers the lead, because at that point, Malik Willis had come in because Jordan Love had hurt his groin early in this game. And I'm not sure if it was the ankle or the groin. They're calling it a groin pull. I thought it was the ankle because I saw him roll his ankle, but maybe it was two different injuries. You just roll your ankle, you just kind of just walk that off.
Yeah. So
the groin pull seems to be the definitive injury, and he is day-to-day. That he had an MRI and it came back clean. So he has, they said, a 50-50 chance to play this week. And that's also because next week is our bye week. So that gives him 2 weeks rest if he doesn't play against the Lions. But Matt LaFleur came out and said that if he's able to go, he's going to go. So we'll see. There's no indication right now at who is going to be the starting quarterback next week. But as far as this past week went, Malik Willis stepped in and beat another AFC South team with a deep 50-yard pass to set up after the Jaguars had tied it with a jump ball to Evan Ingram. The Packers hit a deep ball to Jaden Reed on a Malik Willis play action, and it set up the game-winning field goal for Brandon McManus, who has now hit game-winning field goals in back-to-back weeks. And it's the first time a kicker has been signed to a new team that has kicked game-winning field goals in back-to-back weeks.
That's such some Packers shit. I'm so tired of it. As a Vikings fan, I'm so tired of it.
We got a confident kicker again, and it's Brandon McManus, who had actually legal trouble that he had to clear up before he was able to sign with a new team, and he just recently had it cleared up. So I guess it was good timing for the Packers and good fortune for them.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And also, it's funny that I didn't even really realize that. It's hilarious that you guys keep beating AFC South teams with Malik Willis because it's the teams he knows coming from Tennessee. I mean, it's the teams that he studied. It's the team that he played on. You beat the Titans earlier with him in the year. So, again, just wildly, I guess, convenient more than anything that he's going against these teams that he actually has a little bit of rapport going against. But nonetheless, yeah, a really good win by the Packers in this one. And again, just hands down to the coaching. A really good coaching win by the Packers.
Very good coaching.
When you can lose your starting quarterback and then kind of let the other team stage a little bit of a comeback on you the way they did, but then still hold strong and still pull out a win with your backup quarterback, that just shows kind of trust in a all-around team and more than anything, trust in the coaching. So I didn't get to watch a ton of this game, was kind of busy all day Sunday doing different things. But overall, this game looked really good, and I might have to watch some kind of some highlights on it. But yeah, overall, the Jaguars just aren't it. It seems like that's kind of my big
They were very
takeaway.
inept to start the game. They started the game on first 3 drives, a punt, an interception, and a punt. They didn't have a first down until halfway through the second quarter.
Jesus,
and then they turned it on. Then it was like they couldn't be stopped.
I don't know, though. The Jaguars just don't seem to have it. I don't know what it is. I don't think they have anything at this point, though. Both of their wins have kind of give me wins against not that good of teams, and all of their losses, they've just looked so bad in. So my biggest takeaway from this game is less of the great Packers coaching and more just how mad the Jaguars have been this year, but definitely a little bit of both to make that.
And if you're thinking, who's the other AFC South team? The Texans, who Malik Willis did not beat, but the Packers did beat them a couple weeks ago. So
they should
4-0 against the AFC South.
They should just threw Malik Willis in. I mean, what were they doing? Come on. So now moving on to our game of the week, which we had marked last week in our head-to-head pick'em. And a game of the week it was. We had an NFC South matchup with the Atlanta Falcons heading to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. And the Falcons pick up a win on the road and sweep the series by a score of 31-26. I don't know when the last time the Falcons swept the Buccaneers was in the division series, but I got to imagine that it has been quite a while, and I know damn well that it has been quite a while before both games were so entertaining. I mean, the quarterbacks in both of these games for both of these teams just showed out both times they played. Kirk Cousins followed up his 500-yard, I think 3-touchdown performance with a 250-yard 4-touchdown performance. Baker outdid him in yards, but just short in touchdowns. He had 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just an offensive showcase, and more than anything, a showcase by the Buccaneers. I want to kind of point them out in this game because it was a great game by the Falcons. Nothing against them. They deserve this win all the way through. But what Baker and the Buccaneers were able to do with quite literally their 3rd, 4th string, and 5th string receiver being their top 3 receiving options was just awesome. Cade Otton also picked up 2 touchdowns himself on National Tight Ends Day, which is awesome to see kind of more of a known blocking possession tight end kind of show up and really show out as a receiver when his team needs him most and pick up a good handful of catches plus 2 touchdowns. So really, of course, Falcons, like I already said, fully were the MVP of this game. They looked like they were going to win the whole time. They ended up winning it. They went on the road and swept their division rival. But it's hats off to the Buccaneers more than anything for me on this one, because, man, they played with some heart. Because what else does Baker do?
Right. That's when Baker plays his best. And he did have, I think he had a couple of turnovers, which were what was killer in this game and really what sunk the Buccaneers. But really, I liked how the Falcons played. You had the Kirk Cousins spreading the ball around to touchdowns to Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney. So you had him passing the ball to multiple receivers, and he's starting to really get a connection going with all of these guys. And you'd think Drake London would have bigger numbers, but he did not have the best game. So we'll see if we can get a connection going with him. He scored with Darnell Mooney again, which seems to be the big connection for him, for Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. And we'll see how they really use Bijan Robinson, who had another touchdown, and he, I believe, got close to or might have went over 100 yards.
I know he didn't break it, but I believe he did get close.
I know he got close. So they're using him more, and they're getting more used to and he's getting more used to getting used more. And I think the more that he gets used, the stronger he'll get as the season goes.
Yeah, 4 total touchdowns by tight ends this game, because Kyle Pitts also picked up 2 touchdowns, both over 40 yards. He only had like 4 total catches, but he had 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's a very Kyle Pitts stat line, to say the least. That's fitting for him. But now moving on past our marked game of the week to our games of the week, starting with mine. I had the afternoon game of the Chicago Bears heading to Washington to take on the Commanders. And the Commanders pick up a home win by a score of 18-15 off of one of the crazier Hail Marys I've ever seen. So this whole game was actually really entertaining. The whole first half was very defensive, not in a bad way, like a sloppy offense way, in a true good defense way. So that was pretty cool to see, because anymore that's almost kind of rare to see in the NFL. Usually when you see defensive games, it's more sloppy offense than anything. But this one absolutely erupted in the fourth quarter. There was only 8 points by the Bears and 6 points by the Commanders in the fourth quarter. But man, the way those points came in were so entertaining. The Bears, with had to be about a minute left, score a go-ahead touchdown. And it looks like the Commanders are all but dead. But they quickly get to the 50-yard line. And then Jaden Daniels runs around in the backfield and launches one about 60 yards in the air. But the entertaining part about it is the ball actually comes up about 5 yards short of the end zone, but is tipped back by a Bears defender and just floats into the arms of Noah Brown, who is standing in the end zone with no one within
Brown.
No, it was Noah Brown, wasn't it?
I thought Noah Brown was on the Texans.
I think it was Noah Brown. It was Noah.
Okay.
I might be wrong on I know it wasn't Diami Brown. I actually might be wrong on the last name, if anything. It might be Noah something else, but I think it was Noah Brown.
Okay.
But it just absolutely floats into his hands.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it's totally like designed to be that way, and a lot of teams do it anymore. Because we've seen a good handful of Hail Marys in that way. I don't know why defenses don't start adjusting to that and almost like keeping someone in the end zone in that same way themselves. Because, I mean, there was like 8, or probably not 8, but there was like 5 or 6 Bears defenders in that giant group that were right at the ball. And you're just not really doing anything at that point, especially 5 yards short of the end zone. I mean, even if someone catches it, they're just going to drop. So get back and get in the end zone, because that's the only thing that matters at that point. But Noah Brown knew that, and the Washington Commanders offense in general knew that, which is why they got the touchdown and why they got the catch and win the game. And it was a hell of a game all the way through, but really the last like 3 to 5 minutes was some of the best football you'll watch all year. It was pretty funny.
Very entertaining for that very little bit at the end, because really this game was the Bears had a chance to put it away actually with about 6-7 minutes to go. They had the ball at the goal line and handed it off to one of their offensive linemen. And he fumbled the ball at the goal line. And the Commanders got the ball and then took off the time until the Bears got the ball back to then get back to the 1-yard line, where that time they scored without handing it to an offensive lineman before giving the ball off to Jaden Daniels for that Hail Mary. But what was funny is that the person or the player that actually tipped the ball was taunting the crowd.
I've seen that video. It's so funny.
Actually, while the play was unfolding,
It was
because
Tyreek Stevenson.
yeah, because he had to go. They had to go so far downfield, and he was standing in the end zone taunting the crowd while the play was unfolding. So he wasn't paying attention. And then when the crowd started to form, he ran over there, and he was the one who ends up tipping the ball.
Yep.
So it just goes to show that karma is real.
I was about to say it was karma at its finest, and I mean, like, it wasn't like he just kind of like taunted a little bit and then went got ready. Like, the receivers were in the end zone while he was still taunting. It was crazy. He was lucky that Jaden Daniels had to run around as much as he did, or else he would have barely even made it over there. It was very interesting, and he definitely paid for it, to say the least. But now to wrap up this week's or today's episode, we have Callan's game of the week with the Sunday night football game and the Dallas Cowboys heading to San Francisco to take on the 49ers, and the 49ers just eking out a win by a score of 30-24.
Yeah, and this actually, the game it's not as close as the score shows, because, again, garbage time Dak showed up, and they got 14 points in the fourth quarter and had to come down to an onside kick where they failed to get that. But if not for that, this game was much of a blowout, because in the third quarter, the San Francisco 49ers scored 3 touchdowns to go up 27-10 at that point. And at that point, George Kittle, the star of National Tight End Day, had shown up and gotten 6 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. And that was what was key in leading the 49ers drives down the field during the third quarter, because early on it was much more of a Cowboys favored game, as they went into halftime up 10-6. But the 49ers came out hot and ready to go, and Kittle came out ready to play and show that why he's the star of National Tight End Day. And he, along with their backup running back, not Jordan Mason,
that
Isaac
rookie
Garanado,
yep.
Showed that Jordan Mason actually got hurt and left the game early on. Isaac Garanado came in and had 2 touchdowns, and that was key to their separating themselves from the Cowboys. And like I said, the Cowboys put up a fight at the end, but it just wasn't enough, because they let them get too far ahead, and they couldn't come. The Cowboys just couldn't come back.
I have never seen a team churn out undrafted free agent running backs like the 49ers. It's just the craziest thing. Like
the 1990 Denver Broncos.
I mean,
90s.
You got Raheem Mostert, you got Jordan Mason, you got Matt Breida, you got this guy now, if you want to start adding him to the list.
Isaac Garanado.
I know I'm missing one that was there at the same time as Raheem Mostert. I'm totally blanking on it now.
But Jeff Wilson.
Jeff Wilson, yep. You just absolute insanity the way they do it. But no, like I said, I was super busy all Sunday, woke up ridiculously early, like 4 a.m., was busy all day. So I actually fell asleep at halftime during this game. I was so tired and just went to bed. But yeah, that first half was really entertaining. I mean, first half ended 10-6 in the Cowboys' favor, and it was like, this is going to be a good game. Kind of bummed I missed it, but it looks like the second half actually wasn't like that entertaining.
No,
like it looked like it was,
49ers.
as I say, it looked like it was very like rah, fun, high scoring, but it looked like it was kind of just a blowout and then a blowout the other way that made it look a little closer. So I'm happy I at least watched the better half. But no, nonetheless, this game looked really crazy to watch in the second half. I mean, as you already mentioned, with George Kittle having over 100 yards in just the second half, CeeDee Lamb had like 10 receptions and over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns just in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. So just crazy plays by the stars of these teams. So cool to see stuff like that. And overall, I'm not surprised the 49ers ended up picking up a win, but I am kind of surprised the wavy way that they did end up picking up that win. But that was our NFL Week 8 recap. Thank you all so much for watching, and make sure you stay tuned in until tomorrow when we have our NFL Week 9 predictions. Thank you so much for watching this whole first half of the season. Really appreciate all the support, all of the huge episodes, and hopefully you enjoy and keep coming back. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.